The entire controversy started with what should have been a routine injury update, but within days it exploded into one of the biggest debates in basketball media. Luka Doncic suffered a serious hamstring injury that forced him out at a crucial point of the season. Yet instead of focusing on the circumstances surrounding the injury, several analysts began questioning his durability and long-term reliability. The discussion reached another level when one television personality suggested that Luka was entering the same territory as players who have built reputations for constantly missing important games. That statement immediately sparked outrage across social media, with thousands of fans arguing that comparing Luka to injury-prone stars completely ignored everything he had accomplished throughout his career. Many people pointed out that a single injury should never define a player who has consistently carried his team through difficult playoff runs while playing through pain and physical limitations. The criticism quickly shifted from basketball analysis to personal attacks, making the entire situation even more controversial. Statistics from previous seasons showed that Luka had been available for the overwhelming majority of postseason games while producing elite numbers under enormous pressure. His scoring, playmaking, leadership, and ability to perform in elimination games became the center of the conversation as supporters pushed back against what they viewed as an unfair narrative. If you think sports debates should be based on facts instead of sensational headlines, let everyone know your opinion in the comments because every perspective adds something valuable to this discussion. As more former players and basketball insiders joined the debate, many defended Luka by highlighting the injuries he had already battled through during previous playoff campaigns while continuing to dominate against the league's toughest competition. Others argued that modern sports media often rewards the loudest opinion rather than the most accurate one, creating unnecessary controversy simply to attract attention. The backlash continued growing as fans revisited Luka's biggest performances, including games where he played through visible pain and still delivered historic numbers that few superstars could match under similar circumstances. The more evidence surfaced, the more people questioned whether the original comparison had any factual basis at all. Eventually, even the analyst responsible for the comments admitted that the comparison may have gone too far, but by then the debate had already spread across every major sports platform. The entire episode became another reminder that today's sports world is driven not only by what happens on the court, but also by narratives created behind television desks and social media feeds, where one controversial opinion can dominate headlines for days. As this story continues, even older comments, previous controversies, and questions about media bias begin resurfacing, turning what started as an injury discussion into a much larger conversation about credibility, accountability, and the way superstar athletes are judged in the modern era. If you enjoy detailed sports documentaries that go beyond the headlines, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more, because the next part uncovers even deeper layers of this fascinating controversy. As the backlash continued to grow, fans and analysts started digging deeper into Luka Doncic's playoff history, and what they found painted a completely different picture from the narrative being pushed on television. Before the latest hamstring injury, Luka had built a reputation as one of the league's toughest competitors, consistently showing up in the biggest moments regardless of physical pain or exhaustion. During previous playoff runs, he battled through chest injuries, knee problems, and ankle issues while still producing performances that most healthy players could only dream about. Instead of sitting out, he chose to stay on the floor because he understood the responsibility that came with leading a championship contender. That is why many basketball fans considered the criticism completely disconnected from reality. The numbers only strengthened their argument. Luka had already established himself as one of the NBA's most productive postseason performers, leading multiple playoff categories while facing constant defensive pressure from elite opponents. Every series seemed to produce another unforgettable moment, another game-winning shot, or another dominant scoring performance that reminded everyone why he was considered one of the best players in the world. Social media users began posting side-by-side comparisons of Luka's playoff resume against other stars, and the differences were impossible to ignore. Many questioned why one injury suddenly erased years of elite production and consistency. Basketball reporters also pointed out that injuries are an unavoidable part of professional sports, especially for players carrying the offensive load every single night. Even after suffering setbacks, Luka repeatedly returned with incredible performances that silenced critics almost immediately. Throughout his career, he had demonstrated an ability to recover quickly and perform under enormous pressure, making it difficult for many observers to understand why his commitment was suddenly being questioned. In the middle of the debate, former players and respected analysts reminded audiences that championship-level basketball often requires playing through pain, something Luka had already proven willing to do multiple times. If you believe a player's legacy should be judged by years of performance instead of a few controversial headlines, share your thoughts in the comments, because this discussion continues to divide basketball fans around the world. The criticism eventually reached a point where it became less about basketball and more about creating attention-grabbing narratives that would dominate television and social media. Fans revisited some of Luka's greatest playoff victories, including series where he single-handedly changed the momentum against heavily favored opponents while dealing with visible injuries. Those performances reinforced the belief that his competitive spirit had never been in doubt. As more statistics and historical context emerged, the original comparison looked increasingly difficult to defend. What began as one controversial opinion had transformed into a larger debate about fairness in sports media and whether modern analysis prioritizes entertainment over accuracy. Meanwhile, Luka remained focused on recovery and preparing for the future, allowing his performances and accomplishments to speak louder than any television debate. The controversy continued to spread, but so did the evidence supporting his reputation as one of basketball's toughest and most reliable superstars. If you enjoy deep sports stories that explore every angle behind the headlines, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because the final part reveals how this controversy connects to a much larger pattern that has followed Luka throughout his career, and why many fans believe the criticism goes far beyond basketball itself. As the controversy refused to disappear, many basketball fans began noticing something even more interesting than the original comments themselves. The criticism directed at Luka Doncic no longer seemed like an isolated opinion, but part of a larger pattern that had developed over several years. Every time Luka struggled through an injury, suffered a playoff loss, or experienced a temporary setback, the conversation immediately shifted away from his accomplishments and toward questions about his conditioning, commitment, or leadership. Yet whenever he responded with another historic performance, those same criticisms quietly disappeared until the next opportunity arrived. That inconsistency led many observers to question whether the discussion was ever about basketball at all. Supporters pointed out that countless superstars throughout NBA history have dealt with injuries while continuing to receive praise for their toughness and determination. But Luka often seemed to face a completely different standard. His postseason resume already included remarkable scoring performances, unforgettable playoff moments, and series-changing plays that established him among the league's elite talents, despite still being in the early stages of his career. The more fans revisited his achievements, the harder it became to accept the idea that one unfortunate injury should redefine his reputation. Analysts who focused on statistics instead of headlines highlighted his scoring averages, assist numbers, rebounding ability, and impact on winning, emphasizing that very few players in modern basketball history have produced at such an extraordinary level at such a young age. The debate slowly evolved into something much bigger than one television segment, becoming a discussion about media responsibility and whether controversial opinions are intentionally amplified because outrage generates attention and engagement. Many viewers believe that the loudest voices often receive the biggest platforms, regardless of accuracy, creating narratives that spread faster than facts. That realization caused many fans to revisit previous controversies involving other international superstars, questioning whether similar patterns had appeared before. Throughout all the noise, Luka himself remained relatively quiet, choosing to let his game answer critics rather than engaging in endless public arguments. That approach only strengthened the support he received from fans who admired his focus and professionalism under constant scrutiny. If you think great athletes should be judged by their performance instead of media narratives, share your opinion in the comments, because this conversation continues to divide basketball fans across the world. Looking back at the entire controversy, it becomes clear that the story was never simply about one injury or one television comment. It became a symbol of how quickly narratives can shape public perception, even when years of evidence suggest a completely different reality. Luka's journey has repeatedly shown resilience, determination, and an ability to perform under pressure that few players possess, making every challenge another opportunity to prove doubters wrong. Whether people agree with the criticism or reject it entirely, one fact remains impossible to ignore. Whenever Luka steps onto the court healthy, he changes the outcome of games and reminds everyone why he is considered one of the most gifted basketball players of his generation. The headlines will eventually disappear, debates will fade, and opinions will continue changing, but elite performances and historic accomplishments remain part of the record forever. That is why many fans believe the best response to criticism is not another argument, but another unforgettable performance that leaves no room for doubt. If you enjoyed this deep breakdown and want more detailed sports stories that go beyond the headlines, make sure to like this video, subscribe for future uploads, and stay tuned, because the next story may reveal another side of the basketball world that very few people ever get to see.